Hello again YouTube, Mad Dog here, welcome back to my channel. So today's video, just a quick one, a little bit of a tool tip. So for you guys and lasses that use hand saws and you're struggling to cut your wood because you think you have a dull blade, little tip coming up, stay tuned. Come on. Nope. Definitely a thumbs down. Welcome back. So as you saw in that little clip, that little video clip, I'm basically using this 24-inch backhoe bow saw just to cut some, you know, small to medium sized logs for my fire pit, my log burner. However, as you probably saw, I'm having difficulties cutting all the way through because the blade keeps jamming, you know, and it keeps getting stuck, and no matter how square on I hold it, it's jamming, and the actual cuttings that are coming off the blade are fine, dusty. So like me, you're probably thinking, well, I guess it's time to go to the hardware store and buy a new blade. Before you do so, I'm just going to demonstrate a little bit of a tip that may save you some money and some effort and some time. So bear with me and I'll pan you down to the bench and just explain what this involves. Stay with me. Okay, so before I get into this and show you guys and lasses what I intend to do and for the reasons why, and demonstrate having done it, I just want to say a quick apology to people that already know this. This is basically aimed at people that obviously don't know this or are new to this sort of thing. So for those that already know, please forgive me. So what I'm going to do is just quickly draw the profile of the blade as we're looking along the length of it. Okay, so we have initially the blade thickness. Okay, and then as we all know, or most of us know, that the teeth at the bottom of that blade are actually spread out in opposite directions. So I'll do this very simplistically just for demonstration, so please bear with my poor demonstration. So exaggerated, we have that. So again, looking along the length of the blade, we'll have this. This is the foreground cutting tooth, this is the rear. Okay, so what we've got is from point A to point B, is a width of blade, which, as you can see by my crude drawing, is quite a bit substantially more than the actual thickness of the blade material because of this spread. That's called the kerf. I believe that's called the kerf of the blade. From the side of the blade to one edge, from the side of the blade to one of those cutting edges is called the set. So that distance there is called the set. Now what happens is, especially with softer blades like this backhoe, which it's an intermediate blade, it isn't directly for hardwoods, drywoods or green wood, it's in between. What happens is the kerf, or the spread of the cutting prongs, slowly come together, and obviously what happens then, if those two prongs become singular again, then they become the same thickness as the blade itself or less than, therefore getting trapped into the wood. Whilst ever you have a good kerf offset. As you can see, that area is a lot wider than the thickness of the blade, so whilst ever you're cutting wood and removing that amount of material, then the thickness of the blade will go through that hole that you've made, if that makes sense, so that your blade doesn't get jammed. And this obviously helps more so with wet wood, because wet wood obviously tends to clog and bind more. So that's just simplistically trying to explain what we're going to try and achieve. So bear with me, and I'll bring the saw back into shot, and I'll show you where I'm going with this. Okay, so bringing the saw back into frame. I don't know if this will pick up in this terrible lighting in here, but I'll try and get this in focus. Obviously side profile of the blade, and then nearly end on, just trying to get it a little bit offset, so hopefully you can see if my camera will focus. There we go. So hopefully, as you can see, this tooth is pointing slightly away excuse me, and this tooth is pointing slightly toward me, but not by much. If I look along the actual thickness, they're pretty much flat, so therefore the kerf is not very wide at all, and I believe that's why my saw is getting jammed and snarled up in the log. So simply what we do is, just rough and ready style, I'm going to take either a pair of long nose pliers excuse me, a pair of standard pliers, the pliers on a multi-tool, or a pair of grips, even something along those lines, because you don't need to apply a lot of force doing this. And what I'm going to do is obviously find which tooth goes in which direction, and I'm going to literally pinch onto those teeth and just give it a little tweak in the direction that it's naturally going, and then opposite on the one below, just a little tweak, just a little tweak, just a little tweak, and so on. Now, you don't have to do this for the entire length of the saw. Obviously, if you do take the time to do this along the entire length of the saw, it will be more efficient, more advantageous. But even if you do it, you know, every inch or so, you will create a wider cut for the blade to do its business through. So what I'm going to do is cut the video now, spend 10 minutes just tweaking each one of those, and then I'm going to attack the log again, and hopefully you'll see the difference. So stay tuned. Welcome back. So I've just spent a few minutes reshaping the kerf, or reapplying that offset onto each of the teeth. Hopefully this will pick up. You can now see they go left, right, zigzagging up and down quite nicely, all the way up the length of this blade. So now I'm going to take it out, reattack that log, and see how it performs. Just before doing so, another little tip is, on these sort of bow saw blades, only the actual tips of the blade, of the teeth, are hardened. You'll see that by checking out the colour. They're actually blue on the tips. When using your pliers to bend these teeth, just go below that. That way the blade is still flexible and bendy without actually snapping the tooth off. If you go too close to the tip, it will snap off because it's harder there, therefore being more brittle. So take your time and go as deep into that tooth as you can before making your twist. Okay, let's go log chopping. Alrighty, so we're back outside, same log on the stump here, so let's give it a go, see how she performs now. Alrighty. Okay, we'll go across a nice gnarly bit with a good knot in it as well. Alrighty. And straight away I can see the cuttings, the actual shavings are a lot larger. I'm going full length of the blade, one arm, no effort at all. Just letting the blade cut under its own weight, not masses of pressure or energy. As you can see, it's removing quite a lot more substantial cuttings, so that's a good sign. no problem at all. Alrighty, so just quickly in closing, before you throw away your old saw blades, if they do start to jam and bind and produce dust rather than chippings and cuttings, remember this little tip or hack or trick. You don't have to be dead precise with this for home use, you know, for simple log cutting. It doesn't really matter. You'll find your way as you practice and experiment with this. Just remember to put a little kerf in, a little bit of a twist on your blade, and try it again before you discard that blade and move on. If you do some online research, you will find different angles, set points, etc, etc, if you want to be really scientific about it. But for shed engineering or just out in the wild camping, if you've only got a multi-tool on you and your blade is binding, then just tweak it until you've created a wider kerf than the thickness of your blade, and you should be good to go. So again, thank you all very much for watching. I hope you find this useful. Not necessarily the most interesting of subjects, admittedly, but it may save you a few quid, and if you are out in the bush or in the field, it could save you a lot of hard work, sweat, energy and swearing, because just for the sake of 5 minutes of tweaking, your saw will become a lot more efficient and enjoyable to use. So that's it from me for now. Take care out there. Thank you all very much for your continued support. I appreciate it. Mad Dog signing off. Yeah! Okay, so I just realised that I was just out of camera shot whilst I was doing the tweaking. So just to add that little bit of footage back in so that it's in camera shot. So basically I come in here and I choose a tooth which I'm going to bend, pinch it entirely, just past the hardened stage, and tweak it to the direction I want it to bend to. Same with the opposite side, pinch the tooth, tweak it away towards the side I want. So establishing the offset kerf. I'm sorry I missed that out. I wasn't watching in the camera screen whilst doing it, so apologies for that, but I hope you get the gist of it. See you soon. Mad Dog signing off again.